John Lennon was reportedly insulted by a suggestion from his bandmate, Sir Paul McCartney, during the creation of one of the Beatles' most iconic tracks, Eleanor Rigby. Paul is said to have initially written the first verse of the song before putting it aside. At a dinner party hosted by John and his ex-wife Cynthia, Paul played his version of the song for their friends, asking for suggestions on how to complete it. Businessman Pete Shotton, a close friend of John, proposed that the character of Eleanor could die in the third verse, with Father Mackenzie, the priest in the lyrics, conducting her funeral. This idea was reportedly rejected by John, who expressed that Shotton did not fully grasp what they were trying to convey with the song. In the book John and Paul, A Love Story in Songs, author Ian Leslie shares a slightly different version of the song's creation, recalling a moment when John felt insulted by Paul's open request for help with the lyrics. According to John, the band was sitting with assistant Mal Evans and student accountant Neil Aspinall at the time. John recalled that Paul asked the group for help finishing the lyrics, which made him feel uncomfortable and disrespected. John mentioned that Paul did not seem to want his input and instead turned to others, including Evans and Aspinall, for suggestions, which John found hurtful. In 1980, John reflected on this moment, describing how Paul looked to the group for inspiration rather than seeking his help directly. John expressed that he was taken aback by this, as he felt that Paul had discarded his involvement in the creative process. Although John was initially hurt by this request, he later claimed that Paul wanted him to help finish the song, leading them to seclude themselves to work on the lyrics together. John insisted that no lines from others were included in the final version. While Paul remained silent about this matter at the time, he later acknowledged Pete Shotton's suggestion, incorporating it into the final version of Eleanor Rigby and crediting Shotton for his input. The question of how much John contributed to the song's lyrics has been a point of contention for years. After Lennon's tragic death in 1980, he had previously stated that McCartney wrote the first verse and that the rest of the lyrics were basically mine, according to Ian. However, Shotton downplayed his role, stating that his contribution was virtually nil. Meanwhile, Paul maintains that John's contribution to the song amounted to about 20%. Ian noted that Lennon's tendency to exaggerate was understandable, especially since Eleanor Rigby was hailed as a masterpiece, particularly for its poetic lyrics. John, who was known as the literary Beatle, may have felt the need to claim more ownership of the song during times of insecurity, particularly after the Beatles' breakup, and in 1980 when he re-entered the public eye. The authorship of Eleanor Rigby and In My Life remains a subject of debate among the Beatles, with each member offering different perspectives on their contributions. John considered In My Life to be his first real major piece of work, and stated that Paul wrote the harmony and the middle eight. However, Paul insists that he wrote the music entirely on his own,